Hello everyone, I'm Rick and thanks for joining me. Today we'll be looking at the SMSL PL100. And I'd like to thank Ayoshida Audio for sending me over a review sample. The PL100 is a compact CD player, but not a portable CD player like the Sony Discman of the past. It's more a bookshelf or desktop unit. It measures in at slightly over 6 inches across and over 6 inches deep and about 1.5 inches tall. The PL100 weighs in at 2.64 pounds and does not have a built-in battery or ESP, electronic skip protection, so it wouldn't be the best choice for taking on a hike or jogging. I think it's meant to be used at home. Let's take a closer look. The PL100 is available in silver and black. I have the black one here, but both colorways share the same grayscale graphic under an acrylic front plate, so make sure you clean with cotton or microfiber only, as paper towels can scratch acrylic. A 2mm thick aluminum chassis adds to the feel of quality with no sharp edges anywhere. It feels great. On the front, we have a slot drive for your CD. Then to the bottom left, a small screen with some basic display information. I've plugged in power and I'll power the unit on. SMSL version 1.1 and I'll load a disc. So we get the track information and the track time playing, as well as the play indicator. If we pause, we'll get a pause. The screen is small, but it's super legible. I really do like the font that SMSL selected here, as well as the brightness level. For me, it's perfect. Next to the screen, we have our IR receiver, and under that, power LED, which is only lit red when in standby mode. Then the transport buttons. The first, a stop and eject, followed by a pause play with a tap, or a power on or power off with a long press. The third one is for previous track with a press, or scrub back with a hold. The next is for next track with a press, or scrub forward with a hold. And finally a set of volume buttons, volume up and down, and these only affect the headphone output. As for those scrub forward and back, or fast forward and fast reverse, Aaron over at Forever Analog noted that when the scrub buttons were pressed, the PL100 would lose gapless playback for the rest of that session. So since this player has been out for a little while, I decided to test this unit out to see if that's still the case. When I powered the player on, I noted that the firmware version was 1.1, and sure enough, that glitch still exists. The player will still stay gapless if you press the next track or previous track, but yes, when you do scrub forward or reverse, you will get a second of silence between tracks until you hit the stop and play once again. It's something to note, but not a deal breaker for myself. I can't recall myself scrubbing through a track more than maybe 2 times my whole life. But still, maybe SMSL will give us an MCU update like they did with those annoying lights on the SMSL M20. They had a fix for that one real quick. Hopefully they can give us a fix for this one as well. Moving to the rear of the unit. From the left we have our digital outputs, one on coaxial and the other on Toslink, followed by our analog outputs. We have our headphone output on 3.5mm stereo and a pair of RCA single-ended line level outputs at 2 volts. One thing to note here, when you connect your headphones to the headphone port in the rear, the RCA outputs are muted. However, the digital outs are not. So if you're going digital to another DAC, you will have to mute that DAC or turn it off yourself if you just want music from your headphones. Finally, a power input, and this one's on USB-C, and it requires 5 volts with at least 2 amps. In the box, you get the player itself, a remote control, and a USB-C cable. However, you do not get a little power brick with this one. And I usually like it when I don't get a power brick, because I have a ton laying around, and if I'm just charging something here or there, that one power brick can have multiple uses. However, in this case, I would have liked them to have thrown one in, because it's going to be more likely than not going to be plugged in once and left alone, so nothing else will be sharing that little plug. My favorite power supply, and the one that I would suggest, is the Anker Nano. It's this little guy right here, USB-C, and it's 30 watts, runs around $16 on Amazon. And I did test with the PL100, works just fine. As for the user experience, It's fine, nothing quirky, everything just works. In my youth, I've owned Iowa and Panasonic top-load CD boomboxes, Sony and Panasonic portable CD players, Kenwood and Pioneer 5-disc carousel CD players, and Alpine and Kenwood slot-load car CD players. And take a guess as to which ones got CD stuck in them. Yup, the slot-loading players. And I've had similar experiences with slot-loading CD-ROM drives on laptops versus tray-loading on tower PCs. But on tower PCs, I do recall having to unbend a paperclip on the rare occasion to pop out a disc as well. That being said, the PL100 is 20 years newer than those older drives, so I'd imagine the problems have been mitigated. On to sound quality. I first compared the analog outputs. And a side note, when I was looking up data on the PL100, I came across a discrepancy, and I'm surprised that most people didn't notice this. But over on SMSL's website, we can see that it states the use of a Cirrus Logic CS43131 DAC chip. But if we scroll down a bit, we can see CS43198. So which one is it? So I popped this little guy open to reveal that it actually is the latter. It's a CS43198. Now both are fine DAC chips. I just think it was sloppy on SMSL's part. Come on SMSL, pay a little more attention. Anyway, back to sound quality. I first compared the PL100 to my vintage Marantz CD67 SE, and this will all be subjective from here, but the Marantz was much more pleasant to me. The Marantz is slightly less detailed, but much more holographic, with better layer separation and more depth. I next compared the PL100 to my DVD player, my Apple DV971H. I found this one in a thrift store for $15, and I had to rescue it for nostalgic value, as it's Apple's first DVD player. Compared to the PL100, the Apple sounded a touch thinner, but very similar sound characteristics other than that. If you only want to play CDs for nostalgia and not necessarily for critical listening, I think you can get better value finding an older CD player at a thrift store. But you'll also need a little luck as well, because who knows what you'll find and in what conditions. The big plus with a new player like the SMSL PL100 is that most likely it'll last you a lot longer. Your new laser for sure will. I had to replace the laser on my Marantz a few months ago, and I incurred a $20 cost in parts, as well as I had to spend an hour of my time to get it installed. You won't be doing that on this player anytime soon. Next, I compared the PL100 as a digital transport via its digital outs versus its analog outs. I sent an optical signal out of the PL100 over to my DAC, the SMSL DO200 Pro. That DAC uses 12 of those Cirrus Logic CS43131s, and it sells for around $400. I got mine on Ayoshida as well, and I highly recommend it. Here the PL100 comes off as slightly sibling in comparison. The DO200 gives a fuller sound with a larger soundstage and much better layering. And my final comparison was the PL100 as a CD transport over to the DO200 Pro versus the same CD ripped via EAC and stored on my Roon server, served from my Cambridge 851N streamer as a Roon endpoint over to that same DO200 Pro DAC via Toslink. So CD versus stream from Roon. And I heard zero differences in my scenario. Your mileage may vary, but they sounded identical to myself. But for myself, Roon still wins out, because not only does it not sound any worse than CD playing directly, you don't have to handle the CD past ripping them, and I have DSP EQ available to fine-tune the sound to my taste. As for sound quality on the headphone output, it's okay. With my Civica Robins, it got loud, but it got compressed at higher volumes. At low levels it's great, with nice detail and good space. But once you turn it up, the bass falls apart and things get a little crunchy. I don't think I'd get the CD player primarily for headphone use. So my final thoughts on the PL100, for its build quality, at under $110, it's not an unreasonable asking price. Add to that a better than decent sounding DAC, and upgrade possibilities with the digital outs, and it's a great choice for someone with a small CD collection that's just getting into CDs, or somebody looking to upgrade their older CD player that's at the end of its life cycle. I definitely recommend the SMSL PL100. And that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.